And we are live, y'all. Okay, so today we are going to watch some 49ers content creators that got to watch the 49ers play at training camp, and we're going to see how they did based on, I guess what we see at training camp. So we'll do this together. We'll react together. We're going to look at Grant Cohn. We're going to look at some David Lombardi, and we're going to look at some Larry Krueger as well, get their reactions of what they saw today, and then just react to it. So take a shot for every time I say react. So anyway, Grant Cohn, what do you got? What do you got for me? Let's do his instant analysis. Then we'll do the good, not so good, and then we'll leave the instant reaction alone because that's 50 minutes, and we're not doing that. So anyway, let's watch his freak out. Day 5.
Trent Williams not there. Ricky Pearsall was there and didn't participate in team drills. Maybe he's not ready.
Oh.
But really the story of the day was Brock Purdy. 5 for 12.
The dude could not help himself. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to talk shit, but 30 seconds in, and he was like, "Oh, Pearsall, barely, didn't really get to do any of the team drills. Ayuk, holding in. Brock Purdy threw those interceptions." Let's go.
1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. This was a red zone day. There were 2.
And I want to point out that quarterbacks throw interceptions in practice. The whole point of training camp and practice is to get better at something that you're not already good at. I don't know. I just feel like interceptions are just overvalued in practice.
2 extended periods in the red zone, and he was not good in the red zone. He threw his first interception, though. That was not his fault. He hit Logan Thomas in the chest, between the numbers, in the end zone. Thomas tried to catch it with his chest, didn't catch it because that doesn't have thumbs, and then Fred Warner caught it.
Okay, that was a funny comment there because it doesn't have thumbs.
So that one wasn't Purdy's fault, but then later, not in the red zone, he threw a pass off his back foot to Braden Willis, running sort of like a sail route toward the right sideline, and the pass sailed over the person running the sail route and landed in Diamador Lenoir's hands. So that wasn't great. And then after that, back in the red zone, the second time, he telegraphs a throw to Debo, running a seam from the slot, and George Odom jumps the route. George Odom, known special teamer, jumps the route, intercepts the pass. So that's the day for Brock. He did have a touchdown pass. It was a quick little slant to Trent Taylor at like the 3-yard line. So big.
Haven't heard Trent Taylor's name in a while.
Time throw. Also missed a deep throw to Debo Samuel, who was open running a post against Isaac Yiadom, who had outside leverage, so wide open, no safety deep. That guy bit, and the pass was just overthrown. So it's interesting with Brock. He's not having a bad camp. Maybe last year he had a bad camp and he was recovering from an elbow injury. This year it's like today was a bad day. You're allowed to have bad days. He hasn't hit a deep pass yet, though, and I just can't forget that with Jimmy Garoppolo, after he lost the Super Bowl, he no longer could hit a deep pass and stopped throwing them. He mentally never recovered from losing that game. Jalen Hurts seemed to really mentally suffer from losing that game. How is Brock going to respond from losing the Super Bowl? Today he responded like Jimmy.
Him not hitting his deep ball, especially with like new receivers and stuff. For Debo, that's weird. For any other receiver, I could see that being kind of weird. However, I guess he is stronger. He's working with his arm. This is what I'm just trying to think of an excuse to why he doesn't normally overthrow players from what I've seen. It's usually behind him. Overthrowing a receiver, I don't think I've really seen much of that in the regular season or playoffs or anything. So seeing this in practice is definitely new, I think. But I don't think he's throwing this many deep balls either. So from what I'm hearing. So yeah, let's check out what he had to say about good or not so good.
Our local news keeps us informed when.
Hold on. I'll take this down so that I don't get in trouble playing the. There we go.
Training camp.
All right, who's
Keep
Zeus?
in mind, this was the player's first day in pads.
Okay.
The good wide receiver Ricky Pearsall.
Oh,
He
wrong
suited
one.
up for the first time in training camp and participated in individual drills, but not team drills. If he suffers no setbacks by tomorrow, he's expected to practice in full on Tuesday. So stay tuned. Linebacker Fred Warner. He intercepted a Brock Purdy pass in the end zone that bounced off Logan Thomas's chest.
So even Grant Cohn even knows that pass was not Brock Purdy's fault, the interception. So we got to add a touchdown there, right? Like, so technically he kind of threw 2 touchdown passes too.
Warner always seems to be in the right place at the right time. Cornerback Diamador Lenore. He intercepted a Purdy pass near the sideline that was intended for Braden Willis. Purdy was under heavy pressure because Trent Williams is still holding out and the rest of the offensive line isn't good. So he made a bad decision and threw a.
That's another theory I can have too as well, that the offensive line is really bad. So, him having to actually make those deep throws, because deep passes need time to develop. And if the offensive line's not good, especially with this with Leonard Floyd and Nick Bosa out there, I can imagine he's under rest all the time. Even Grant Cohn has said that he's under rest all the time. So there's some sympathy to have there, but again, he does need to figure out those deep balls. But let's continue.
Long pass off his back foot. The pass sailed over the intended target, Braden Willis, and landed in the arms of Lenore. Bad pass. Strong safety George Odom. He intercepted a Purdy pass in the red zone. Purdy telegraphed a quick throw to Deebo Samuel running up the left seam, and Odom jumped the route. Easily Odom's best play of practice. Not the best day for Purdy. More on him in a minute. Nickelback Renardo Green. He broke up a Purdy pass in the end zone that was intended for Jawan Jennings. Green was the starting nickel today because Travarius Ward had the day off and Lenore was playing strictly on the boundary. Wide receiver Jawan Jennings. He caught a touchdown pass in the red zone on a pass thrown by Joshua Dobbs. Jennings ran a.
Juwan Jennings is such an underrated player. He's constantly performing in training camp. I mean, throughout this entire training camp, I've heard nothing but great things about that guy. It's so glad we have him.
Slant route and caught the ball between Ambry Thomas and Samuel Womack, neither of whom should make the team. Jennings, by the way, is having the best camp of his career. Wide receiver Ronnie Bell. He caught a screen pass from Purdy in the red zone and scored. Bell is fearless and elusive with the ball in his hands. He's a good gadget player. Tight end.
Like good gadget player, as in like something Debo does. I don't know about that. I think we got enough gadget players.
Mason Pline. He caught a 25-yard pass from Dobbs over backup nickelback Chase Lucas. It's unclear if Pline can block, but he certainly can run and catch. Tight end.
Pline, I'm excited about. Larry Krueger loves him a lot. I like his size. Really, that's just about it. I think he's like 6'7", 6'8". He's a tall dude, and he plays tight end. And if he can run and catch, that's a pretty big deal, I think, especially this offense. Hopefully he can block, because if he can block, that's something. Then again, the corner that he was going against is a glorified like practice squad fringe depth chart kind of corner, So it's not something right, but then again, he's undrafted, so at least it says something.
Braden Willis. He didn't catch any passes, but he started at fullback because Kyle Juszczyk had the day off, which means Willis is the backup fullback. So he almost certainly will make the team.
Larry Krueger thinks Isaac Guerrero is going to be the fullback for the 49ers, the backup one. Braden Willis looks like to be that backup to that fullback, so there goes that theory.
Tight end Cam Latu. He caught his first pass of camp.
What? Cameron Latu caught a pass? What the? I was cursed online.
Let's see how long it takes him to catch his second pass.
For real.
The not so good.
That's what got him on the good list. He caught a pass. That dude is not making the team.
Wide receiver Brandon Ayuk. He watched practice alone from the sideline because he still hasn't signed a contract extension. He didn't stand next to teammates or John Lynch. At one point, Frank Gore walked over and talked to Ayuk, but then Gore left and Ayuk stayed by himself. Maybe he feels disconnected or alienated from the team. I wonder if he regrets saying that he'd be open to playing for Pittsburgh or Washington. He seemed like he had a lot in his mind. Quarterback Brock Purdy.
Well, I mean, the homie does have like millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars on his mind. It's probably weighing him down a little bit. And I think it's a pretty big deal, especially coming close to. I think that as a player, even with the contract going, there's a lot on his mind, not just because, what he's saying, but I think just a lot more like, hey, I love playing football. This is what I love to do. I love playing for this team. And that's kind of what he's saying here. But I mean, there's more to it than that. That's probably weighing on his mind. There's probably a lot going on. Some people want to give him shit and stuff. But I mean, if I had millions of dollars coming to me, dude, I don't know how to react. Anyway,
he completed just 5 of 12 passes and threw 3 interceptions and 1 touchdown pass. To be fair, he didn't have Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, or Kyle Juszczyk. But the defense also didn't have Nick Bosa, Trevarius Ward, Talanoa Hufanga, or Dre Greenlaw.
Still, though, I guess Nick Bosa out there is not out there, but Leonard Floyd is, and he's still a good player. Hufanga is not out there, but Mustafa and Jair Brown are studs. So, and Ward wasn't out there, that's fine, but Lenore is still a stud. And from what I'm hearing, Green and Yadam are pretty good players as well. So I don't know. There's just, and Fred Warner is still out there. So
the playing field was relatively even. Purdy simply didn't play well today.
I strongly disagree. They're missing one defensive lineman throughout all of that, which was Nick Bosa. While the offense, by the way, the defensive line is elite. By the way, it's a great defensive line. The offensive line, defensive line. The offensive line for the San Francisco 49ers, however, they're all terrible except for Trent Williams. Trent Williams is the only one that can ever be considered good. He's obviously one of the best players in the NFL. But when you're putting that offensive line up against that D line, that let alone would give the corners and safety the time they need. So I disagree with that.
In addition, he missed a deep throw to Deebo Samuel, who was open running a post route. Cornerback Isaac Yadam was a step behind. Purdy just overthrew the deep pass down the middle of the field. He still hasn't completed a deep pass in camp yet, but it's early. Today he was in a tough spot because he didn't have much time to throw, and his receivers weren't getting.
I will say this about Grant Cohn, because people that know me about Grant Cohn, I don't really like the dude, but there is something I've noticed a difference in. There is a slight, and I mean there's a slight change in his criticisms. Like there does seem to be a little bit like, okay, but here's the understanding while I'm going to give the critique, even though he's still a little harsh on the critique and he's still like, okay, I really want that. I really want the negative to come out first kind of guy. But however, in some of these so far, he is giving you some tools and some arguments to be like, make your own judgment yourself. So that I do respect. So that's something he's changed. It's not all like just piece of shit player. Oh, cursed. But
open quickly. So he had to buy time and improvise. He forced throws he shouldn't have, which is to be expected when he's missing lots of key players. Still, it would be nice to see him hit a deep pass at least once this offseason, because Jimmy Garoppolo lost the ability to throw deep after he lost the Super Bowl. How will Purdy respond to his big defeat? Today, not so good.
Jimmy never had. He never had a deep ball. What are you talking about? That dude never had a deep what? Look, I get it. It's possible, after losing the Super Bowl, players kind of regress a little bit sometimes. But if you're trying to compare Jimmy Garoppolo to Brock Purdy has a way better deep ball than Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo never even had one. So that's interesting. Anyway, that's Grant Cohn's opinions there. I agree. Believe it or not, I agree with a lot of what he had to say. And hearing that Brock Purdy threw 3 interceptions, not that big. I don't think it's that big. I care about trends. Like, what is he trending? What is the most common thing he's constantly doing throughout training camp? Like, what's the consistent negative? So far, it's just deep passes. However, the offensive line is atrocious. And I think, again, you need that time to make a deep pass. However, anyway, let's move on to David Lombardi and what he has to say about his instant reaction to training camp. Let's do it. Bro, you're not showing your face. Barely hear the dude. We are about to now compare Grant Cohn's analysis and his perspective and David Lombardi's perspective in comparison, not like separated apart from each other. Let's see what he has to say about those interceptions. We heard what Grant Cohn had to say. Let's see what David said. That's a different account that Grant Cohn had. Grant Cohn said it hit him in the chest and it bounced off. And then, did I miss that part? Tripping. He says that Yada made the play. Two straight. He says that so Yadam outmuscled Logan Thomas. Yamador Lenore outmuscled Braden Willis. Jesus, sounds like our tight ends are weak as. See, Grant Cohn didn't express that in his description either. So they got two different descriptions on the interception. They have two different perspectives. So however you want to take it, if Banks really did get knocked down and that pressure was coming at him, yeah, Purdy, like pretty much what David said. Yeah, you need to throw that away or take the sack, not just force it and throw it. But we do need to pay attention to the story that the offensive line is not helping whatsoever, and if anything, it's hindering Brock's ability to actually play. Again, though, Brock shouldn't have thrown the ball. That is the negative. That's exciting to hear. Renardo Green's a rookie. Sure. Oh shit! I don't even have. I have the wrong. Fuck. Oh, excuse my language. I didn't even have the. I didn't have the right window up. Your boy is failing you guys. I'm sorry. Hope you guys heard all that. I'm not replaying all that.
Attitude, and he's taken the same thing that made him the ACC pass breakup leader, same thing that made him such a good corner against top flight first round competition like Ricky Pearsall, like Brian Thomas Jr., like Malik Neighbors. He shut those guys down in college. Renardo Green is taking that here to the NFL in his work against Jawan Jennings. Backup quarterback competition. Both quarterbacks were missing some throws. Brandon Allen has missed some short throws over the first part of this training camp that I think needs to get rectified because you need a higher floor. We talked about that with Trey Lance. His floor was too low.
Brandon Allen's just not that guy, so we just need to accept that. Okay, he needs to get better. He needs to get better. He's not getting better. Brandon Allen is who
low for the backup spot you need to make sure you hit those bread and butter throws. And I know
You
that
gotta put in
Brandon Allen
Mordecai, buddy.
has been missing a couple of those. And Josh Dobbs at the very end of practice, he missed Danny Gray in the red zone, and it wasn't all too hard of a throw over the middle. And Danny Gray just started punching the goalpost in frustration, Ken Norton Jr. style, except he was
Danny Gray's like, man, I know I'm on the roster bubble here. Buddy, give me that touchdown. I was open. I did the work.
and celebrating on the play. A couple more nice plays for Deebo Samuel today, including a reverse. They went to Jordan Mason to the right and Deebo around the other way. And Jair Brown laid a nice hit on Deebo Samuel at the end. Remember, pads are on. You can't tackle to the ground, but there is a little bit more contact. And two young tight ends made plays. Cam Latu, who dropped all those passes last training camp, made his first catch of this training camp on a nice crosser running catch. Then we saw Mason Pline, college basketball player turned into football player. He's about 6'7", 6'8". Caught a deeper corner pass from, I forgot if it was Dobbs or Brandon Allen. I'm going to have to go check the notes in more detail, but it was a deeper corner pass over Chase Lucas, new defensive back for the 49ers, was with the Lions before, and they took advantage of Pline's height, and he hauled it in. So good for Latu, good for Pline. Otherwise, offense a little bit shaky. It's all good. First day of pads at training camp. 49ers will be back.
Okay, so, I mean, tight ends kind of showed up a little bit, it seems, except for Logan Thomas. It's good to see that Mason Pline, someone that Larry Krueger is high on, is showing up a little bit. It's good to see that Braden Willis, who was a rookie last year, is showing up a little bit. It's good to have these tight ends show up because we definitely need the depth. We don't have the depth. I think Salbert's going to be our second tight end. I really do think that. I think he's already hauled in a couple balls already. And from what I hear, he's supposed to be he's supposed to be a blocking tight end. So if he's catching balls and he's supposed to be a blocking tight end, that's good to hear. So I wonder how many tight ends we're going to keep. We're probably going to keep 4. I don't think Latu makes. I think Latu can catch 5 balls for the rest of training camp, but I still don't think that would matter. But Mason Pline, I'd be excited to see him make the team. That'd be cool. Braden Willis, George Kittle, and Saubert. That'd be a cool lineup. So anyway, now that we've checked out Grant Cohn, we've checked out David Lombardi, let's check out Larry Krueger's instant reaction. I do not have that set up, so let me go ahead and remove this and get that pulled up for you guys. Get that pulled up. Krueger reacts. 4 hours ago. Okay, let's watch it. It's 11 minutes long. He has the longest instant reaction. All the creators out there. That's all these players play. So let's go ahead and bring them up to the 2 to the 4 to the 3 to the 4 to the 3 to the 4. All right, here we go.
All right, Larry Krueger here at Levi Stadium from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er day 5 of training camp recap as 49ers were off on Sunday and back at it here on Monday. So the schedule for the week, they'll practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and they'll be off again on Friday. So as far as the big story down here in Santa Clara today, it was probably the fact that Drake Jackson, who had patella tendon surgery on his knee, and Kyle Shanahan announced that it's not recovering as well as they had hoped, and he's going to miss the rest of training camp. So it's a fairly significant thing for the 49ers. They're not that deep at defensive end.
We got Gross Matos, who can play the inside as well. Then we got Leonard Floyd, Nick Bosa, Austin Bryant. That's not really kind of the depth. It's not good. There was someone else. There's a few others. But yeah, I guess you could kind of say we don't really have depth in the argument that we don't really have anyone name-wise. But I don't know if you really need a household name at defensive end number 4, do you? I mean, it'd be nice. But.
They have Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, and Yatir Gross-Matos. Most teams keep 5, Robert Beal and Drake Jackson were supposed
Robert Beal, that's what I forgot about. You got Robert Beal at number 4. That's someone we want to see.
to be defensive end 4 and defensive end 5. So without even playing, today was the first day of padded practice. Without any injuries, the 49ers are already down to probably a 5th defensive end that they, Austin Bryant or something like that. And so what we saw last year in training camp, where the 49ers had to go outside their roster and bring in guys like Taco Charlton, I think you're going to see more of that again this year. And I've been predicting that for weeks, just because you look at the numbers.
If we want that 5th D end, then yeah, you're going to have to just sign somebody. You don't need you don't need a household name for that 5th spot. I mean, if you really need it.
Depth wise, and most teams keep 10 defensive linemen, and of those 10 defensive linemen, 5 of them are tackles and 5 of them are defensive ends typically. I
try not to confuse like Madden roster with real roster, because that's not how it works. Because in Madden, like if you had 5 D tackles and 5 D ends, like what are you doing?
Teams got great competition at defensive tackle for those 5 spots, right? They're going to have, they're of the 5 spots, let's say 4 of them are set with Malik Collins, Javon Hargrave, Kevin Givens, and Jordan Elliott. So of the 5 defensive tackles, 4 of them are pretty much already known. So you have Kalia Davis, and you have Evan Anderson, and you have Shaquille Brown, and a couple other guys battling for what
I want Evan Anderson to show up, the undrafted free agent.
Amounts to 1 defensive tackle spot. Well, at defensive end, you've got your top 3 guys, Bosa and Floyd and Yatir Gross-Matos, and then it's down to Beal and Jackson for 4 and 5. And then as soon as you lose one guy, it's time for Austin Bryant. If you lose another guy, it might be time for guys like Alex Barrett. So they're very thin at defensive end. I would imagine they will pick up some defensive end here in the next few days to try to compensate. Now, Shanahan was asked about it, and he said, hey, look, we liked our defensive end depth coming into camp, and 5 days into camp after the first padded practice, we still like our defensive end depth, our defensive line depth.
I agree with it. Their defensive line.
You can say that, but nobody who they have behind their top 3 guys has any experience at all. Beal has none. Drake has none. The guys behind those guys have very little as well. So,
do you need to have a well-experienced D end at the? Do you need to have your 5th D end be well-experienced? Do you need to have that? Like, I don't think that's that big of a deal. I think it's good to have a rookie or someone you need to learn to under Nick Bosa, Leonard Floyd, and all those other great players that we have on the D-line. Do you need to have someone with this shit ton of experience, excuse my language, crap ton of experience at the 5th D end spot? Let's relax a little bit here, people. Let's relax. Come on, crew. Come on.
It's great to be an optimist, but I'll say it right now. The 49ers will be picking up a free agent defensive end here in the next week. You can almost bank on that.
Yeah,
the other big story of the day is that Brandon Ayuk continues his hold in. He was at practice today off on the sidelines, not participating. He was standing next to Frank Gore and Dante Whitner, kind of chopping it up, watching practice off on the side. Still no update on Whitner's hold in, no update on Trent Williams' hold out. So those guys continue to hunt for brand new contract extensions, and so far
CeeDee Lamb, well, I guess they're close to from last we heard. So hearing that Ayuk, Jesus Christ, hopefully Ayuk's not like, I'm CeeDee Lamb level, so give me $34 million. Because that's the rumor right now, that he's closing on $34 million annually. And that's not worth it.
It hasn't happened. As far as practice highlights today, there were a number of really good highlights. It seems like we say this every single year, but JP Mason looks great. And he continues to look great. He had 5 or 6 really impressive runs where, he's running, weaving through traffic, showing power, showing speed, showing balance. It's hard to evaluate the run game in a mock training camp situation because, oftentimes there's some linebacker or defensive lineman that would have made the play at the line of scrimmage or near the line of scrimmage, and instead the running back runs 20 yards down the field, and we're like, hey, that was a hell of a run. In reality, if that had been a live action, that guy would have been brought down for a 2-yard loss. So it's really sometimes hard to gauge the run plays. But J.P. Mason has had several nice-looking run plays thus far.
Good to hear.
I thought Renardo Green had his best practice thus far. He had a big hit on a run play, and he threw his body in there. He had another play later in practice where he had a great PBU where he knocked the ball out of the air. You can just tell he plays fast, he plays competitively, he plays for keeps. I mean, he's a great competitor. You can see it on the practice field. Cam Latu had his first sighting today. There was a really nice Cam Latu catch and run after the catch. That was great to see because we haven't seen a lot from Cam Latu. I thought maybe the highlight of the practice today was a Jalen Graham play against the run where he just popped right into the backfield, filled the lane, and would have been a great tackle for a loss. Of course, the back kept running, but Jalen Graham, I thought, had a great practice today. Mason.
We haven't had anybody talk about Jalen Graham yet. This is why it's good to go through all three different kind of creators to kind of get to different perspectives. So I haven't heard about Graham yet, and hearing that, saying this is possibly the best play in the run game of Jalen Graham, that's good to hear because our run defense is terrible.
It's Pline, the big rookie tight end from Furman, had a really nice catch along the sideline and run down the sideline for 6'8". You're talking about a guy with great hands.
Look how dude's salivating at Mason Pline. This dude loves Mason Pline. He's just
and really exciting to watch. Fred Warner had a nice interception today in practice. Picked it off. It was a deflection.
It was a deflection
that he picked off the turf and ran it back. Good to see Fred looking very much.
So Grant Cohen says that it just bounced off his chest and then went into Fred Warner's hands. Dave Lombardi said that Yadam knocked it out of his hands and went to Fred's. So based on that, it sounds to me that Yadam made a play on it, and it wasn't what Grant Cohen said.
Much in mid-season form. We got our first look today at Ricky Pearsall. Pearsall, who had not played in the first 4 practices, was out there. He also was running routes. We saw him fielding punts. He looks pretty good. He's got an interesting gait. He doesn't pound the legs up and down. He almost has a gliding, effortless feel to his running style. Which is going to be interesting to see how defensive players, defend him because he is a hard guy to kind of get a gauge on how fast he's actually running. He runs 4.41 for the stopwatch. On the field, he plays even faster, and he's got a gliding style about him.
That sounds kind of sexy. I'm not gonna lie, gliding just all across the field. I mean, that's pretty.
Jair Brown continues to look really, really good. He had a nice hit on Deebo Samuel. Demo Lenore had an interception in practice and ran it back. Lenore is just getting better and better and better. Also, on a negative note, Spencer Burford, it looks like, is going to be out 3 to 4 weeks with a broken hand. He's yet to have surgery on the hand, but they're planning on having surgery. But it was heavily wrapped. You saw him walking around with it at practice. He's going to be out at least 3 weeks, maybe 4. And also a couple other notes. Isaac Guerrero, the rookie running back out of Louisville, has a hamstring injury, and he could be out 3 or 4 weeks, which is interesting because that could come right down to the cut down. Where he basically had very little preseason.
Ollie and
that gets the point. I don't think he's going to say more. I think the rest is just him, I think we get the gist here. So pretty much we got all 3 perspectives of every single 49ers content creator that was at the padded practice. We got to hear who performed and who didn't. And so who's pretty much good I wrote down here was Mason. Apparently is flashing throughout camp. That's good to hear. Green, the rookie's doing good. Mason Pline finally showed up today. Same thing with Braden Willis, but then again, I think he showed up yesterday as well. Lenore, Odom, Graham, from what Larry had to say. Jair Brown apparently did very well. Fred Warner got the interception, of course. So really, I feel like the biggest judgment here is just the offensive line. There's not really much it's not really much that people are complaining about talent-wise in practice. It seems that the only thing that people are complaining about with these 49ers content creators, Grant Cohn, Dave Lombardi, and Larry Krueger, is the offensive line. So, I mean, that's good news on a level. Like, I mean, it's like, it's not at the same time because other teams have significantly more worries than ours do. So having just this one problem, even though this one problem protects the quarterback so that you can actually win games. I don't know. Anyway, so those are all the perspectives. Please check out the rest of the video if you guys weren't here for the rest of the live. And yeah, I mean, I will probably try to go live again tomorrow for the next padding practice and try to give you guys all the information. Pretty much do the same format that I did here. If you guys like the content, please hit the sub button. If you guys like this live and you go watch it later or whatever you do, please like it as well. That helps out the channel, helps me out. And yeah, all love, fam. And I will see you in the next video.